Welcome to The World This Week in partnership with The Daily Beast. I'm Nadia Sharbi, and this Friday we're joined by Christopher Dickey, foreign editor of The Daily Beast, and Pierre Esqui, the co-founder of Rue 89. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Now, our first theme this week is becoming frighteningly recurrent, and that is, of course, the spate of deadly attacks here in Europe. Now, since the killing of 84 people in Nice on the 14th of July, Germany, too, has been shaken by acts of deadly violence, 3 in the space of a weekend. And France was hit again with the execution of an 86-year-old priest in Normandy on Tuesday. Now, that last attack and revelations that both of the assailants were on the radar of intelligence services, one had even been released from prison while awaiting trial on terror charges, have piled even more pressure on the already embattled French government. In an interview with Le Monde, Manuel Valls has admitted this Friday to a, quote, failure. So, where do these blatant security lapses leave French authorities? Perhaps, Pierre, what would be your...
Well, the situation is pretty complicated because, first of all, you've got a political climate, so the opposition is trying to propose more extravagant measures every day. The government has to recognize, and Manuel Valls, for the first time, admitted there had been a failure, although he was blaming the judges and not his own services. But the reality, and that's very hard to admit for any government or for any citizen, as a matter of fact, is that they're running one war behind the terrorists every time. By the time you realize what happened in Nice with this truck killing 84 people, and you start adapting the security services to that threat, suddenly you have the unprecedented attack in a church at 9 o'clock in the morning, 5 people praying. I mean, you can't have a policeman at every church. The reality is that the French authorities, the French police, the French Secret Service has been slow to adapt to this phenomenal threat. And today, I think when you read this interview of Manuel Valls, he himself says we've changed era. We have to change gears. We have to change also the mentalities of the whole population. He calls on everybody to become a policeman in a way and report suspicious things. So we're really entering a different phase, and I think there's going to be a very thin line between creating a kind of general paranoia in the population that when you go shopping, you might not come back, and being a security-conscious society.
And in that interview of Valls, he also turned the debate towards what he calls building a new model for France's relations with Islam. Is this where the scapegoating begins, do you think?
Well, I think that's the risk. I mean, what Daesh or ISIS or whatever we want to call the so-called Islamic State, what they want desperately is to create an environment of civil war. They want to take a country where there are maybe 6 million Muslims and create a situation where all of those Muslims feel besieged and the non-Muslim population feels under attack, and the two are pitted against each other. Look at how few resources they actually have to employ to do that. How many people have been involved in all these terrorist attacks over the last 18, 19 months? Maybe 40, 50 with support groups?
Less than people were killed.
Very, very, very few people were involved. We have one guy driving a truck, he kills 84 people. And what was his connection to ISIS or to Daesh? Virtually none. He planned ahead, but he was somebody who set out for his own reasons to kill a lot of people. And I think we have to remember that there are a lot of nuts in this world, some of them Muslim, some of them not, who think it's their mission just to kill a lot of people. A week ago, on this plateau, we were discussing an ongoing event, the shooting in Munich. Was that Daesh? Was that not Daesh? Who was this? Were there 3 shooters? What was going on? Well, it was one nutcase who idolized school shooters.
And it was interesting to see how France and Germany treated this piece of news in a very different way in these attacks. We had François Hollande jumping the gun overnight and announcing this was an Islamist attack, the Munich attack, whereas Merkel hadn't yet spoken and announced this, and in fact it turned out it wasn't.
No, it definitely wasn't. I mean, the guy idolized the people who did the Columbine school shooting, and
Breivik in Norway,
and had converted
Anders Breivik,
and had become a Christian from some sources.
So it's a complicated and difficult situation, but The good news is, actually, in the United States, from studying school shootings, they are beginning to get an idea of the way this pathology develops, not only among school shooters, but among these so-called lone wolves or stray dogs who carry out this kind of violence. And this is what Valls is talking about when he says we all have to be vigilant. If you look at the interviews of people in the community where the man who killed the priest, killed the priest came from, they said, no, these guys were nuts, particularly the first one who was named. He was crazy. We all knew he was crazy. Well, if they knew he was crazy, and if he was telling people on Telegram what he was going to do,
but you can't arrest everyone who's making threats. That's the problem now.
But Chris was making an important point, is this idea that they're pushing us towards a kind of civil war. But the interesting thing in the past few weeks, since Nice actually, is that there's been a lot of signs within the Muslim community of trying to speak out, which was not so much the case until now in France. And in Saint-Étienne-de-Rouvray, where the priest was killed, you've had a lot of moves between, maybe because it was a religion, another religion that was attacked, between the Catholics and the Muslim communities to do things together. I mean, even today, I think at this moment, there is a joint ceremony where the priest is talking to the Muslim community. Yesterday, they were together at a very big tribute to the priest. On Sunday, the Muslim community has been called by their imam to go to church. So these kind of things, I think, are very important to create a bond, to keep a bond, because in this, you know, in Saint-Étienne-de-Rouvray, there's something incredible, is that the mosque has been built on land that was given by the church. They are adjacent to the church. They give part of their land to build this mosque. So these are things, we're not talking of a wrecked society. We're talking of something that wants to keep together. Maybe it will not be possible, but at least there is something that is trying to hold.
Yeah, but you have extremes on both sides that want to push for a war, that push for confrontation. I mean, it was fascinating when you look at the testimony at the National Assembly by Patrick Calvar, the head of the Internal Security Organization, where he said, we're diverting resources away from tracking Muslims because we're worried about the extreme right, people on the extreme right who want to provoke a civil war. So we live in perilous times. I think there's no question about that.
We do, and it was interesting also this week, people were trying to resist this depressing roll call of death, destruction and division, if you've been saying, with a cheeky hashtag on social media, which is the hashtag ISIS claims responsibility for. So we've got a few examples for you this evening. ISIS claims responsibility for the eclipse, bad weather, climate change, the Brexit, you name it. ISIS claims responsibility for Kennedy's assassination.
I've often thought that.
And my personal favourite, ISIS claims responsibility for the nomination of Donald Trump. Which takes us...
They couldn't be better soulmates,
exactly.
really.
Which takes us smoothly to our second big story this week. And after weeks of largely Trump-centric coverage, it was Hillary Clinton's moment in the spotlight as the Democratic Party officially handed her the nomination during their national convention in Philadelphia. In the most important speech in her political career, Clinton clearly put across her party's strategy for the November 8 election. Phase 1, turn the tables on Donald Trump's grim view of America with an upbeat and hopeful campaign. Phase 2, present herself as the reasonable and experienced alternative to the Republican billionaire's brash and as yet untested political style. Let's take a listen to a clip of that speech first.
Don't let anyone tell you that our country is weak. We're not. Don't let anyone tell you we don't have what it takes. We do. And most of all, don't believe anyone who says, I alone can fix it.
So you now both galvanized and ready by Clinton's bid to become the first woman president of the United States?
Well, you know, I think she's a terrible candidate. I think she probably will be a great president, and she probably will have that chance.
Okay.
But she's a terrible candidate. She's not an inspiring speaker. You listen to that and you compare it to so many of the other speeches that were given at the convention. Obama's speech,
Michelle
Biden's
Obama
speech, Michelle Obama's speech, people that, some people I'd never heard of, Reverend William Barber, his name was. He gave an incredible speech. People were in tears. The Muslim couple whose son was killed
Died
in Iraq.
in Afghanistan.
You can't watch that without without breaking down. Powerful speakers, powerful rhetoric, powerful moments. The weakest moment, probably, was Hillary's speech.
And that's been her problem from the beginning, isn't it? The sort of
Well, that has been the problem from the beginning, and it's one of the reasons that she's not doing well in the polls against really a completely uncredible and incredible candidate, Donald Trump, is because he gets up there and he says n'importe quoi, and
he says it with
but
panache.
he does it in a way that he says it with panache. He does it in a way that enough people find compelling in the United States that they listen to him, and they don't want reason. They don't want to be explained to. They just want the sound bites.
This morning, a French historian specializing on the US, Thomas Negaroff, was making an interesting comment. He said, Trump is talking to the guts and Hillary to the brains. And I think that this is a good analysis. And in the end, you don't know what people will be voting with their guts or with their brain. And if it's with their brain, Trump is a non-starter for any reasonable person. Maybe as an outsider, I look at things differently. But even if you're an unhappy American who's suffered from unemployment and globalization, there's nothing in what Trump says that is offering a solution to your problems. But if you're talking with the guts, that means I have a revenge to take on society and on the world. Maybe that's where he is powerful, and that dilemma. Are you voting with your guts or with your brain is really part of the equation. And if Hillary Clinton can quit this cold and not very charismatic persona that she is, that's a big challenge.
That's asking a lot.
That's a big challenge.
That's asking a lot. But I mean, the danger, of course, in modern politics, which is so television-driven, is that people do vote with their guts. They want to be moved emotionally, and you know, Hillary's not good at doing that. You know, she can be wonderful. I mean, if you watch the Benghazi hearings, she sat there for 11 hours. Absolutely a model of cool intelligence. And she responded to people who were all Donald Trumps. They were all crazy right-wingers. And she took them all on and she devastated them. Maybe she can do that in the debates.
Yes, that might be a crunch
But if you look
time.
at the way Trump ate the other Republicans in the debates, just ate them alive, confused them, wrong-footed them, let's hope he doesn't do that with Hillary.
And also, we've just had the experience in the UK Brexit referendum that blatant lies in one of the most informed and connected countries in the world have managed to bring the vote to a conclusion that was not really foreseen. So, and particularly by the man who started it. So, so it's not a very hopeful conclusion to this, but there are a few months left, and we're going to see what the campaign leads. But contrary to everything we had imagined a few months ago, Trump could win.
And what's interesting is that on both sides, in both conventions, had in common was the struggle to present a united front, because Hillary Clinton doesn't just have to convince Democrats; she has to convince the partisans of her
Sanders,
main of
Sanders.
Sanders, and that's going to be a tough act to follow, isn't it?
Well, it is going to be a tough act for Hillary. But I mean, look, Democrats, progressives, they have no choice. If the progressives are going to stay home and not vote for Hillary, well, then they deserve Donald Trump.
But the convention was not as bad for her that it was for Trump, because he had Ted Cruz coming and refusing to endorse him when Bernie Sanders played the game, and he was really very open on that.
And Clinton's also hoping to tap discontent about Trump within the conservative side. Do you think she can actually get Republicans and independents on her side?
Oh, I think a lot. I think a lot will be on her side, and I think some will come out publicly. I mean, look, the two past presidents didn't go to the convention. What does that say? You've got, I think you'll see people like Colin Powell will come out and support her. He's pretty close to that already. I think you'll see a lot of very respected Republicans, but none of that is necessarily going to hurt Donald Trump. because the people who support him, who have that kind of resentment, but it's not only resentment, but who feel that, they feel, oh, these intellectuals, these power elite, these people who are inside the Beltway, they're all ganging up on Trump, just like they gang up on me. And so I'm going to vote for Trump because he's just like me, even though in fact he's nothing like them. But that's the way it goes.
She has the support, which is interesting for us, of all the foreign policy establishment, including the neoconservatives who were, the Bush administration people who are now rallying to Hillary Clinton, like Kagan or people who were really never expected to support a Democratic candidate.
And Moscow appeared to invite itself in the campaign this week also, casting a shadow in the Democrats' big moment, with an embarrassing email leak being blamed on Russian hackers. The FBI is investigating, we're told. Is the Kremlin likely to meddle in this poll, or is that the ultimate trumped-up charge?
As it were. I think that the Kremlin would love to see Donald Trump be president of the United States. Everything he has said would play right into Putin's hands. And he is being really bizarrely coy about his relationship with Putin. I mean, if you look at it, he criticizes everybody in the world. He criticizes the Pope, for God's sake, but he doesn't criticize Putin. He doesn't criticize him at all. And there was a very interesting thing that I think passed without notice with a lot of people. The Republican platform had a part of it that said, we will stand by the people of Ukraine.
And
it was dropped. And it was dropped, and it was dropped because of Trump's people. Why do Trump's people want to drop support of Ukraine from the platform? Well, you got to ask yourself.
And his comments on the Baltic states, when he said, they're a suburb of St. Petersburg and are not going to start a third world war if Russia invades, when they are part of NATO, and there's an article in NATO that says if one state is attacked, it's an attack on everybody, and it's very, very weird. And he made this joke about calling on Russia to
get more information,
get more emails from Hillary Clinton, which was very bad taste for a man who wants to be the president.
Well, for a man who already looks like he's in Putin's pocket, yeah, I would say.
Well, on that, we'll leave the world this week. Christopher Dickey, thank you very much. Peter Heskey, thank you. And thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned to France 24.